Welcome back to Catholic Pipes, the series, the Briar Chronicles. As promised, today we're going to talk about pipe making and the wonderful process that it entails. But before we do that, let's do a little show and tell, and then I'm going to break this all down, and you guys are going to have some great pictures and videos cut in between me talking to show the whole process. But today specifically, in several parts, this is the first part of the pipe making process, which is going to be design and shaping. So, with that being said, when it comes down to the design process, you look at the materials at hand, and there's a couple different ways you can go about it. When you're looking at the briar, you're going to be looking at the natural grain that is present. From there, you kind of determine what kind of shape you want to have come out of the block. You can sketch. That's one method, and that's the method we're going to be doing for today. We're going to be sketching out a shape that I've done several times in the past. It's quite popular. I like it. And that's how we're going to make this pipe for this series. But the other option, too, is what we call freehand shaping. And freehand shaping is essentially where you just take the whole block. You don't really have to draw any designs on it, and you go right to your shaping wheel, which is a big 36 grit sanding disc. Takes off a lot of material very aggressively. And from there, you just kind of start shaping with the grain, and this is where you can create unique designs that really emphasize the grain within the block, bringing out real good beauty. So, what do I have? So in terms of kind of straightforward design that you would probably stencil in or use your lathe to do most of the shaping on, you have classic shapes like this. This is what we call a billiard. Very straightforward. You can shape these guys freehand, absolutely by hand. Does take a very skilled hand to make sure that everything is lined up properly, or you can toss it onto your lathe. And what the lathe will do is it will cut the material down to right about here, and then it'll cut the material right all the way about to this point. So this section right here will be left for you to shape by hand. It's a very straightforward shape, great smoker, classic design. This is another one. So this is another design. This one I believe is I'm going to mess this one up big time. I want to say that this is a bulldog. Yep, this is a bulldog shape because of the diamond shank on it. Now, something like this as well, this part, it's very difficult to do by hand. So you're going to want to have a machine to help you to make sure that the angle is right and then to cut these two lines in here. And then this will, obviously, you cannot do this on a lathe. You have to do this by hand as well, make sure everything's all lined up. So between these two pipes, you see that there's need for design, laying it out, tools to make sure that everything is lined up because of how precise these shapes can be. When you move into the world of freehand, you can get more fun designs. And I have a couple examples here for you. So this is a very nice artistic piece right here. And by the way, the pipes that I'm showing you, I have not made. These are all from different makers. These are part of my personal smoking collection. So if you look here, you'll notice how the grain goes all the way around the bowl, even in the back. You see that grain goes all the way through. So this particular artist, as he's shaping, he's trying to not lose the grain. So each line here and here, here and here was cut specifically to be in line with the grain. And as a consequence, you get something that is relatively asymmetrical. And that's trying to organically follow the grain. You end up with this really beautiful looking piece that is asymmetrical. And that's all due to the grain within it. Moving on with kind of the freehand shaping realm, we have this cool little number. And I love this because here, just to show the beauty of this. This looks very straightforward, very symmetrical, but there's subtle details in here. If you notice, the grain kind of moves off to the side, and so the lines that he created on the smooth part follow along with those lines as well. And that's just a beautiful touch. Not only that, but when you do asymmetry, he was able to incorporate the raw live edge of the block on the bottom. So these are things that require a lot of planning, and freehand design allows you to incorporate more of the natural elements of the block into the pipe for more fun, unique, creative pipes that are awesome to have in a collection. I mean, you're always going to have your factory pipes, your standard shapes, and it's always fun every now and then to have kind of a showstopper piece or a collection that is comprised of just showstoppers. But those freehand shapes really allow an artist or a pipe maker to allow their creative juices to flow and create something that is, once again, unique. And the last one I have to show you guys is another freehand design. So this one is really asymmetrical. So you see it from this side, but if you look here, it all slants to the side. All right, another little side right here. And you look at it from the bottom, almost has this arrow kind of perspective to it, but you can see how the lines flow into a beautiful endpoint, and then they're met with the shank portion. Each facet is mirrored inside of the shank itself. So this is really a unique piece. And once again, this is a byproduct of freehand shaping, of being able to look at the block, pick out what you want it, how you want the grain to be oriented, and then going at it and creating something that really sings and makes the block come alive. And if you're wondering, no, I did not have an accident. This was stain. I was finishing up a pipe. So one of the occupational work hazards with pipe making is you end up not permanently, but you end up staining your hands pretty bad. And after a while, people kind of wonder if your hand broke through the toilet paper. So no, that's not what happened to me. It was leather stain. So my hands will look like this for the next 3 days or so. All right. So enough with the show and tell, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed some of those pieces, and maybe I should do a little name dropping. If you go to Instagram, which is where most of these pipe makers, Instagram is usually the best for pipe makers to show their works, and just primarily photo based on each person's profile. A gentleman by the name of Ernie Markle, a gentleman by the name of Brighton James, or Brighton Santos. Brighton. We'll just call him Brighton. Scott Klein. Ping. He's from China. And then we have one from a Texas maker, Trey Rice. So check them all out on Instagram. Look at their work. Very beautiful. All right. So what you guys have all been waiting for, the pipe making process. I am excited to share this with you. So first things first, as I had mentioned, we look at the block. And so with the block, we're going to go through and we're going to pick out what we want for this particular pipe. As I mentioned, we look at the block and that's going to give us some design cues. So the first thing we look at is the grain. So if we want a smooth pipe or a contrast blast pipe, we're going to look at the grain, see if it's pretty good, see if it's uniform, see if this is the block that we want. And the other thing that we can look at is going to be the growth rings. So as you can see in this particular block, there is a lot of jagged lines that arch around it. And I can use that as a design element as well. So if I'm not going to make it smooth to emphasize the grain, I can emphasize the growth rings by sandblasting it. So if I see the growth rings and they look really nice, wide or tight, all of those things will play into, okay, the pipe I'm going to make, I want it to have texture. I want it to be sandblasted. So now that we've picked our block, I'm going to go over to this pipe that I have. It's the model that I use for this particular shape, and I'm going to trace it onto the block. Next, we're moving over to the bandsaw to cut this shape out two-dimensionally. And we're going to move over to the shaping wheel. We're going to quickly shape this guy. And once it's all said and done, here's what the final product looks like in terms of the shaping. And from here, we're going to go into the drilling phase, making sure that we drill out the tobacco chamber, the airway, and the mortise. So this is where the mortise is the junction point of either where a stem will go in or a extension, a shank extension. And in this case, we're going to use bamboo. So I hope you guys enjoyed that little video presentation. This is step one of the pipe making process. And we're going to continue through. We're going to see this pipe through till the end. Make sure that you like, you subscribe, and you have notifications. Because at the end of this process, the pipe that we make, I will be putting it into a raffle. So I'll have some rules and regulations for it. But in the meantime, like, subscribe, be notified, keep up to date with the Briar Chronicles so you know when this pipe is done and when the raffle is going to start. So we'll see you next time with the Briar Chronicles.